Okay, let's get started. Today, what I want to talk about is Trump and Trump being racist. This has been going around, I guess, probably since the beginning of his 2016 campaign. Is when he rolled out his campaign and started with the whole thing where they accused him of saying that Mexicans were criminals and rapists or whatever
they're
else.
Crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
I just want to clear some things up with as far as not Trump specifically, but in general, framing the debate of racism and white supremacy, and like within the political realm, to get it more accurate, to kind of get rid of, sort of the propagandistic elements of what's going on behind, when they roll out and say someone's a racist, either in the media or Democrats or whoever else. And so this is going to be framed around Trump, because right now he's the main vessel upon which this is being kind of implemented into their little ideological, propagandistic messaging of, what's a racist and what's considered a racist and how they frame the entire issue. First of all, this is kind of like a side. Once I get into the kind of the meat of what I want to talk about, maybe this will make a little bit more sense, all this will get cleared up. But I mean, there are three main, when the term's thrown out there, there's three main, probably what people have in their head when they're saying, like Trump's a racist or anybody else. And one would be that he just has like a disdain, a hatred for other groups, or that, he feels his group superior. The next would be that he's pushing some sort of like biological or, scientific type racist ideology of these groups are different. And thus, obviously, given that they're different, that kind of implies that, one must be superior, or they're different to the point where, one could be superior or whatever. The last would be like just the basic prejudice, bigotry, discriminatory type definition where, he discriminates against black people, or he's bigoted towards, other groups. And none of these, even on the surface, I think really fit. But that's not really what I want to get into in this video. I want to get into more kind of like the nitty gritty as far as, why it's not a good idea to call him racist, and really how you're supposed to define the debate, or not the debate, but the conversation around racism, if you want to get really into the ideological functioning of racism, white supremacy, and the systems within society towards a positive end. And I want to start out with, first of all, it's problematic to call Trump racist, or it's problematic when using race in this way, is that it's just, for one, it's not an argument, let alone a good argument. It's not an argument, definitely not a good argument. And let me explain why real quick. First of all, this is often pointed out by Republicans as well, or people who get the term thrown out at them as basically it being a way to like stop the conversation, or kind of say, you're racist, therefore your opinion doesn't matter, therefore you're a bad person because of the negative connotations, or there's other negative implications as far as you being a racist. And I guess in addition to that, the real issue with that is just simply, and like this goes to the earlier definitions that I threw out there, a person could just say no. So whatever you're seeing that you think you want to relate, a person could just deny that that's racist, or they could just deny that they have these personal sentiments or feelings, or that that's their goal.
I am the least racist.
So really, that's really terrible if you want to frame a conversation towards your benefit, if the argument that you're throwing out, that's not even an argument. I mean, you're racist, therefore it's not an argument. It doesn't frame the conversation. It doesn't say what you have a problem with. It doesn't do anything other than throw out a term, throw out an insult. And when a person could just simply say no and just kind of get away with just plain denial, then you have a problem. And one thing that I could kind of like juxtapose this with, to give like a very, very good example, would be what Republicans throw out as like an insult. So I could just throw like apples for apples, basically. When the term racist is often, they say, used by liberals and Democrats, but what's insult used by like Republicans, usually liberal or Democrat. And let me explain this. Why this is more effective. First of all, when a person throws out the term, like for example, liberal, as an insult, what they often mean by that is liberal as an insult. Basically, what makes up being a liberal, the ideology of liberalism, is problematic. The actual things that you actually believe in, which contribute to actual actions that in policies that you promote, are a problem. So it's way different than saying, you're a racist, because obviously that doesn't really reflect specific policies. So if they came out and said, his immigration policy is problematic, his criminal justice, his foreign policy, then okay, cool. But when you just throw out the term racist, that doesn't really say anything. You could have any policy platform, and then still have whatever those definitions that they want to construe as far as what they're trying to say as racist. You could still have those beliefs or those sentiments or whatever you want to say, and then have different policy that might not reflect that. But when someone says a liberal, they mean that the actual politics you actually support are problematic. And also, you could even throw in, like, when someone says, "oh, conservative," and tries to use that as an insult, what they usually mean is basically going back to using conservative as kind of like a front for just calling someone racist. So it's never really that they have problems. Sometimes they have problems with the policy, but it's usually like a kind of like a veiled attack. Whereas liberal, and you could tell because this is used by both people who in the United States they call conservatives or Republicans, and like the left will use an attack as calling someone liberal. So there is actually a core problematic issue with the policy of liberals. And as far as Democrats as well, a real issue for Democrats is the history that really just can't be denied. Okay, so when you say Democrat and you associate that with the policy and history of Democrat as far as slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, domestic terrorism, if you're talking about like the KKK or other, white supremacist organizations or entities, mass incarceration, even if it's like foreign policy, if you want to look at Vietnam, if you want to look at Iraq, people like as far as voting to go into Iraq, supporting the Iraq war, you have Democrats with that. Syria and Libya, just under Obama, he was the actual president, and it got support from those in Congress. So even there in foreign policy, where a lot of times people could say, oh well, that's not. And the best example would probably be the war on drugs, as far as something that started kind of like under Nixon. Reagan and the Iran-Contra scandal or something like that. But the thing is, if you look at local jurisdictions and you look at people like Joe Biden, you look at people like Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton, I guess, who support things like the crime bill and mass incarceration, the Democrats really, even when you think you got them somewhere as far as, party politics as far as this party is negative, I mean, Democrats are in a bad position to try to make any argument as far as what party is bad for what they supported in the past. So both within that context, you could really see how. So you're using the argument racist, where I could throw out an argument to actually say, well, hey, didn't the Democrats support slavery? Didn't the Democrats support Jim Crow and segregation? Weren't there, members of the KKK and other groups that were Democrats? Even like that video of Ronald Reagan came out. I mean, I think he might have been a Democrat. I don't know if he was a Democrat at that time when he made the comment about the Africans being monkeys or whatever, or comparing them to monkeys and say they didn't even wear shoes or something. I mean, just kind of like, demeaning. But yeah, that come from people with Democrats. Even, the thing with Al Sharpton and Trump, where Al Sharpton said, oh, he was a Democrat at that time when they had their little relationship. I mean, during specific times, Trump was a Democrat. I mean, up until the point where he started getting involved in politics, as far as when he when it attacked Obama, or when he started this 2016 campaign. But I mean, you can't really, and this goes on to my next point, you can't really call someone a racist absent the overall theoretical context, or the point that you're really trying to make, or the problems in society that you're really trying to address or solve. So this is totally, it's a bad it's not an argument. And like I said, it's not even a good one.